Hello, I'm Graham Jones and welcome to Channel KT4 broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. You can join the show by sending in questions. Just press the comments button on the screen. Don't forget to click the like or share buttons. And if you're watching on YouTube, please click to subscribe to Channel KT4. I'm so pleased to welcome to my virtual studio Saidhanya Ravi, a member of the Stoneleigh Hindu Temple. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Graham. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a real honour to be here. I'm really excited to talk a bit more about the temple, a bit about Hinduism and some of the work that we do in our community.
I'm absolutely really looking forward to this. I have to say, Saidhanya, am I saying your name correctly?
Yeah, kind of. It's Saidhanya.
Saidhanya. Okay, I'll try, Saidhanya, to get this as best I can. But it's been really fascinating to actually do the research for this particular show, and thank you for all the input that you've given. But I'm really interested in learning a little about the history. I believe most scholars believe Hinduism started somewhere between 2,300 BC and 1500 BC in the Indus Valley, which I believe is near modern day Pakistan. But many Hindus argue that their faith is timeless and always existed. Unlike other religions, Hinduism has no one founder, but instead a fusion of various beliefs. I hope I've got that sort of right. But what are your thoughts about this, Saidhanya?
So you're absolutely correct, Graham. Often it's the best way to think about Hinduism is that it's almost like a massive tree with countless branches. It's so diverse and there's so many different ways of practicing Hinduism, which makes it such an amazing and complex religion. But ultimately, we believe that our Vedas, our mantras, our slokas, which are kind of like the divine prayers and the divine teachings, they came from the word of God. And that was passed through word of mouth. And I guess with any game of Chinese whispers, things eventually evolve, things change. And that's how we've just got so many different ways of practicing our faith. The ways in which Hinduism is practiced across South Asia is completely different. For example, if you're a Hindu in northern India, you'd practice Hinduism in a completely different way to how those in South India would practice their faith. So in that sense, Hinduism is more of a way of life rather than a single organized religion, which makes it really fascinating and so rich and diverse. It's very much a case of all rivers lead to the same ocean. I think that's kind of like the key takeaway point regarding this question. But ultimately, there is an underpinning belief in Hinduism, and that's the belief that we believe that God is within all living things. So that means God is within all plants, all animals, and all humans. And as a result, we always treat everything with the utmost respect because we basically believe that God is within every living thing.
I think that's amazing, actually, just hearing what you're saying about all these rivers leading into one particular point and that God is in every living thing and every plant and everything. Wonderful. It's great. But I've seen the temple was built in 1994. I've actually found a lovely video of the inside of the temple. Let's take a look and then you can tell us something about this beautiful temple. And also, by the way, I'm a musician. So what drew me to this particular clip was not only the wonderful images that can be seen on there, but the music. And it's a fusion of music. So you've got this Hindu feel with it, but you've also got kind of like more modern kind of poppy rhythms going underneath it. So I kind of like this fusion going on. Sorry, I'll get on with the video, but it's a cracker. Here we go.
Rajeswary.
Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? Okay, I want to buy the album. Can I get a hold of it?
I don't actually know where that track's from.
Great.
We have a fantastic uncle who's been documenting all our festivals for over the last 10 years. So he's put that video together. So he has all these amazing tracks. Yeah, definitely really good.
He's done a really good job. I mean, the editing of the video is really superb. When you next see him, please say, well done. It's
I will do.
Really good. Anyway, sorry, I'm digressing here because I'm having so much fun. So come on, tell me something about your wonderful temple.
Yeah, absolutely. So our temple is dedicated to Sri Rajeswary Amman, and so she is the main presiding deity of our temple. Essentially, we believe she is the eternal mother of love and grace. We believe that she's the source and sustenance of all creation. We pray to her for strength, for power, for happiness, for good health. So she is our main deity. We also believe that she's in control of our 5 senses and the 5 elements. If you break down her name, Rajeswary Amman, so Rajeswary means Queen of Queens, and Amman means mother. So later on in this interview, you might hear me refer to her as Amman. That's just how we kind of call her. And when I pray to her, I call her as Amman, as my mother. So the story of the temple, and I'll give you a bit of a history background on the temple. So essentially, the story of the temple started off basically due to the Sri Lankan Civil War, primarily between 1960 and the 1990s, where many families had to leave their homeland and migrate to the UK, to Australia, to Canada, in search of a better life for their children. Due to the war, unfortunately, there wasn't many opportunities for them, and it was quite a scary time for them. So many took the decision to leave their homeland and move. So that's including people like my granddad, my grandma, and many other family members. So many of them settled in the UK, and there was quite a large congregation within South London. So when they got here, there wasn't any temples, there wasn't a permanent place of worship for them. So what they'd often do is get together in groups, and they'd take it in turns to host prayer meetings at each other's houses, which is really lovely. But unfortunately, the groups got bigger and bigger, and there was more and more people, and there just wasn't enough spaces. There wasn't enough space in people's houses to accommodate all these people. So that's when 5 families and a whole host of devotees came together and decided to raise some funds and look for a permanent place of worship to serve our community. So in 1994, they came across St. John's Church Hall in Dell Lane in Stoneleigh, just at the back of the Broadway. And they decided to buy that and renovate that to become our temple. It proved to be the perfect place. It was quite close to areas such as Kingston, Sutton, Merton, Rains Park, where there was a lot of Tamil Hindu people living. So they bought that in 1994, and then in 1995, it was formally opened to the public after a small renovation ceremony. However, it wasn't until 1998 and 1999 where the majority of the renovation works took place. So this is where we had a team of Indian sculptors who stayed with us for a few months, and they sculpted all the sanctums within the temple, so all the various structures for each of the deities. So yeah, that's a group of all our volunteers who worked tirelessly to help the temple become how it is today. So those sculptors sculpted the temple in a classical Dravidian style, which is the style of temples that's found in South India and Sri Lanka. And on the 5th of April 1999, we had a grand ceremony, and that allowed our temple to become one of the first ornate Hindu temples in Europe, dedicated to the female goddess within Hinduism. And there's 2 points I'd like to touch upon here. It's really about the 2 aims that the people who came together to put the temple and who worked really hard to establish the temple, what they were going for. The first aim was mainly, it was about providing a place of worship for the future generations. So, for example, like my grandparents, it was about providing a place of worship for their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, because obviously they'd moved to a foreign country and their children weren't exposed to Hindu temples. It was a different way of life here. So it was very much about having a permanent place that would allow families across London, across Surrey, to practice their faith exactly how they would back home in Sri Lanka. And secondly, it was also about providing a space for people who were in the process of migrating to the UK. Many people had really traumatic stories and experiences from the war. Many had lost family members. Many had travelled here alone and didn't know anyone. It was a complete foreign country for them. But the temple was like a space of safety and a space of hope. And it was a space where people could come, meet new people, pray together. And as a result, our temple became a real community hub, which is just fantastic. So like lifelong friendships have been formed, and it's really like a massive family feeling, even still to this day. Everyone knows each other. We all look after each other. So yeah, that's just a bit on the history of our temple.
Oh, thanks, Saidhanya. That's really absolutely fascinating to learn about that. Could you describe for me a typical day or service at the temple? I'd like to know a little bit about slokas and mantras, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So every day is different at the temple, but your typical day pretty much starts at 8:30 when the temple opens. So during the night, all the sanctums where the deities are, the doors are closed. So the first thing the priest does in the morning is he does a special prayer, and we open the doors to the sanctums so that the public are able to come in and pray. The priests are the only people allowed inside the sanctum, so they're the only people who are allowed to touch the idols and touch the deities. Devotees such as myself and pretty much everyone else, we always have to pray from a distance. So that happens in the morning. And so every morning and every evening, or sometimes both morning and evening, we have a special bathing ritual for the deities. It's called an abhishek, and essentially it's where various items and offerings are poured onto our deities. So these offerings include things like milk, yogurt, rose water, fruit, honey, various beautiful things. And the point of that bathing ritual and that cleansing ritual, it's almost like a physical representation of the abundant flow of God's grace. So as you see the milk pouring on the statues and on the deities, it's really about understanding that flow and feeling that connectedness. So go on.
Actually, sorry to interrupt you. You're in full flow then. It's wonderful. But I just want to go on these deities and the flowing and the milk and the yogurt and everything, because I looked at on the website and looked around on Hinduism, etc., and found wonderful videos showing all of this. And I was saying to myself, what's all that about? So I mean, thank you for putting my mind at rest. And I now know all about that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's no problem. Yes, so the abhisheks are really, really special to watch. You definitely have a feeling of closeness when you watch that happen to the deities. And then following that, after the bathing ritual, the deities are dressed and they have fresh flower garlands, and they're dressed with jewelry by the priests in preparation for the puja service. So we have one at midday and one at 8 p.m. every single day. And that's basically a prayer service whereby the priest goes in turn to all the deities that we have in the temple. He chants the holy names of the gods. He offers flowers, he offers fruits, and various hymns, such as they're called purvarams. They're sung to various gods and goddesses. So that happens twice a day. But there's two. But you mentioned slokas and mantras, so I wanted to touch on that. So we have two that we do at the moment. We always do mantras and slokas throughout the day, but there's two very special mantras that we chant. So the first one is chanted every single day at 6 p.m. That's called the Lalita Sahasranamam. So that basically consists of 1008 holy names of our goddess. It describes her appearance, it describes her attributes, her personality. And we believe that if you hear that mantram, or if you chant the mantram, you're going to be blessed with strength, protection, good health, and happiness. So that's something that happens at 6 p.m. every day. And following that, during this pandemic, we've also decided to ask the priests to also chant another really powerful mantra called the Rudram. And that consists of 11 verses. And the Rudram is dedicated to Lord Shiva. So he's another one of our gods. And he is known as the destroyer. His job is to destroy negativity, bad vibrations, bad qualities, and essentially, hopefully, destroy coronavirus for us. So the priests chant the Rudram, and and that again describes the attributes and the aspects of Lord Shiva, and it's really about invoking Lord Shiva and really worshipping him very deeply. So slokas and mantras, as you said, form a foundation of rituals at our temple. They're chanted every single day in all our prayers. Most devotees also know a few, and they're all in the language of Sanskrit as well.
It sounds to me that it's a really fascinating and full-on day within the temple. There's so much going on. I have to say, there's a question I want to ask you here, just because you might not be aware of it. But again, I'm going to go back to your website. That it says hours of business, right? Believe it or not, and it says opens 5:30 p.m.
Yeah.
But whereas obviously that's not true as far as the temple is concerned, because you're open all day. So
that's not strictly true. So we are open from 8:30 to 2, and then we close and we reopen at 5:30 to 8 p.m. Sorry, to 9 p.m. Basically, it's just to give a break for the priests during the day, and also not many people come because it's kind of like school pickup time between 2:30 and 5:30. So that's when people really come home. So we close during those hours, but we used to be open throughout the whole weekend. But during the lockdown and stuff, things have changed, and the temple's been closed for the majority of the last year. So yeah, we are closed for about 3 hours every day. Yeah.
Okay. So do you manage? Can anybody walk off the street and go into the temple and have a look round, find a moment of solace, and listen to the mantras, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we absolutely encourage anyone to just come in, have a look. Most of the time, the temple is really quiet on days such as Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Normally, many Hindus go to the temple on a Tuesday and a Friday. But on those other days, like, anyone can just walk in through the door. They can just walk around the temple, have a look, and they can sit down, listen to the vibrations, listen to the chanting. And it's a really lovely feeling because you really feel God's presence when you're there. Also, the temple is so visually exciting. It's really colourful. So it's definitely just lovely to just walk in and just have a look.
I actually think sometimes it doesn't really matter what the religion is. It's the religious space that creates the environment for reflective thought. And if you've got problems or whatever, you can sit there and hopefully let them wash away a little bit in your mind. I'll just take you back to in my younger days. I worked at Westminster, and when I finished work at just before 5 o'clock, I would actually walk to Westminster Abbey. And I walked to Westminster Abbey because there's a sung church service, and you could just sit there for half an hour and listen to one of the world's greatest choirs just singing. And it was just absolutely glorious. It didn't matter about the religious significance. It was just the music and the peace and tranquility. I hope I'm getting that message across okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like literally everything you described is exactly what you can experience at our temple as well. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. Okay, I'd like to take this moment to thank Cyprus Garden Services for supporting our local magazine, The Cuddingtonian. Your local Cyprus Garden service is run by husband and wife team Andy and Caroline from Parkdale Crescent. And I'd like to thank them for their continued support to the Cuddingtonian, which is obviously from Cuddington Ward area. But they do great work, and I highly recommend them to you. And so do pop along and see the Cypress Garden services. That was good. Right. Let's see if we're back now. Good. I see you have a number of festivals throughout the year, and most notably the Chariot Festival, which welcomes over 1,000 devotees to the temple in the summer. Let's hope we can do that this particular summer. Is it going to be after June the 21st?
No, it's going to be in May this year. So I have no idea. We haven't really discussed it yet. Who knows?
Yeah, fingers crossed anyway. But anyway, I've got a little video. It's only a short video, and you're going to have to explain it, what's going on at the end of this very, very short video.
Sure.
கும்பாபிஷேகம் 1995 இரண்டாவது கும்பாபிஷேகம் 99 இடம்பெற்றது. இந்த சரே பிரதேசத்திலே எங்கள் அம்மன் எழுந்தருளி எல்லோருக்கும் இனிய காட்சி தந்து 15 நாட்களும் உற்சவத்துடன் இன்று தேர் திருவிழா இடம்பெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கின்றது. எங்களுக்கு பக்த அடியார்கள்.
There we go. But please explain.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that clip was our Chariot Festival. I'll give you a bit of context first, and then we can really pick apart that video. So the Chariot Festival is our biggest day in the temple calendar. It's my most favorite day of the year. It's literally, as soon as one Chariot Festival ends, I'm already looking forward to the next one. It is so important. And essentially, it's the 15th day of our 18-day long annual festival. So those 18 days are full of intense worship. And those 18 days are normally, the festival is normally celebrated between May and June. It depends on the lunar calendar. The dates change every year. But the purpose of the festival is it's essentially the upliftment of the soul. It's a real spiritual cleansing. It's a purification where we believe that our goddess destroys 3 impurities that are found within all of us. So those 3 impurities are called Arnavam, Kanmam, and Maya, which are egoism, karma, and illusion. So it's really about restoring peace and love and happiness within us and getting rid of anything negative within our hearts, within our thoughts. So it's a real spiritual cleansing. So during the Chariot Festival, what happens is our deity on that 15th day, she leaves the temple and we have a procession in her very grand chariot on the surrounding roads. So you can see that thousands of devotees come to seek Sri Rajeswary Amman's blessings. We have a group of singers who sing behind the chariot, singing in praise of her. You might have seen loads of people with baskets, like reaching up to the chariot. Those are essentially fruit offerings that they're asking the priest to bless. So it's a really, really powerful day, charged with so much activity and so much like positive vibrations. It's amazing. Our local community absolutely love the Chariot Festival. It's so fantastic to see them all come out onto the road and take part. One of the things that we do is that we have to crack coconuts at every junction. So it's great, like getting them involved, and they come along and crack the coconuts. And as you said, it's attended by thousands of devotees. So many people travel across London to spend the day with us and to seek Sri Rajeswary Amman's blessings. It's a fantastic day.
It sounds like the most glorious festival, and I hope one day I can pop along and observe. It sounds absolutely marvelous. Now, a lot of your devotees at the temple take part in community events, and I've got a couple of pictures here. And if you can explain what kind of events within the community your devotees at the temple are taking part in. Here's one.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's from Lights on the Broadway. You can see one of the uncles with his Santa Claus hat there. So Lights on the Broadway is organised by the Stoneleigh Oriel Residents Association. So that's normally 2 weeks just before Christmas. So we set up a stall and we offer free food and free hot teas and coffees to the local community, as well as some South Asian delicacies like samosas and pakoras. We also do henna for the children if they want it. So it's a great chance for us to just talk to our neighbours, talk to our local community, invite them in, and they've always got so many questions for us, which is fantastic. We've also done open days as well, where we've invited the community to come along for a tour of the temple, have afternoon tea with us, have a chat with them, and they've always gone down really well as well. Some of the other community work that we've done is that we've worked closely with facilitating workshops. Oh, so I'll go on to that. So that is Damien Hurst, who was the former COO of the Epsom and Ewell Borough Council. And that's where he came to the temple to speak about the Future 40 plan for the borough. So he came along with a couple of his colleagues to talk to our devotees and talk about how we could develop Epsom and Ewell to make it a diverse area and make it an area that's, that can be welcomed by all. And just prior to that, I went to the council and I organised a workshop there in front of about 70 council staff. And that was providing them with an insight into Hinduism, discussing the assumptions of Hinduism, and really just ensuring that they understand how modern day Hinduism is practiced. So we work really closely with the council, which is fantastic. Similarly, we are often visited by MPs and local mayors and mayoresses, Chris Grayling, Paul Scully, Ed Davey. They always come to the temple, and it's lovely for us to have a chat with them. It feels like our voices are being heard, which is fantastic. And I quickly touched upon the police workshop, so I'll just finish that off. Surrey Police, the trainee cadets, we hosted a few workshops where they came to the temple to learn more about our faith, how we practice Hinduism, but also we gave them information on how we'd expect the police to walk into a Hindu home, how we'd expect them to behave. Small things like taking your shoes off as you walk into a home. And also we told them a bit more about the Hindu grief process, if they had to go into someone's home to, say something about a bereavement in a family, just things like that. So it's very much a transfer of knowledge and educating as many people as we can about Hinduism and about how it works.
I see that you've also welcomed over 2,000 children in the last 5 years. I think we've got a couple of pictures if you'd like to say something about these, if you could.
Yeah, sure. So the school visits are 100% my favourite thing to do at the temple. My mother and I have been doing them for the last 6 years, I think, since I started uni. And so, as you said, we've welcomed over 2,000 children from local primary schools. Some of them come on like coaches all the way from Guildford and Cobham, many scout groups. And we've actually even welcomed a couple of nursery groups. So we had like 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds come to the temple. So that was really, really exciting for them. And for me, it's the primary purpose is about making these kids understand Hinduism, understand how we practice our faith. And it's really important about creating a generation of open-minded children who understand the diversity, because the UK is becoming a diverse nation. And it's really about accepting these different views and understanding what people do. And also, one of the best things about school visits is that you're not only telling the child will come to the temple, but they'll go home and tell their parents and they'll tell their grandparents. There's actually a massive number of people who come out more knowledgeable from just a school visit from one child. So it's amazing. I love school visits, and I just can't wait for them to start again. Those are the nursery children. So,
yeah. That's just a lovely picture, isn't it? It's so sweet indeed to see that. Now, also, I see that there's other important work going on in the temple, and with people, of course, need support, and your devotees are supporting some of the charities, such as the food bank and a number of other charities that are supporting the community. This was one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's our Christmas appeal. So for the last 3 or 4 years, devotees at our temple have donated over 150 presents each year, I think, which we've given to the Methodist Church, to Age Concern, and to the Trees Foundation. So those are some devotees who went to the Christmas party and delivered the presents to the elderly. So that's our Christmas appeal. As you said, we work really closely with the food bank. So we've been supporting them for the last 2 or 3 years, I think. So devotees come along and they donate food items that volunteers take over to the food bank. And I think what's really lovely is that particularly during lockdown, the first lockdown, the temple was closed, obviously, but people were coming and donating food items outside in a box. And so our volunteers would take those items and give them to the food bank, because it was definitely a time of need for everyone. And it was a real struggle. And our devotees really appreciated that and understood that. As well as Epsom and Your Food Bank, we've done quite a lot of work with Age Concern Epsom as well. So we've sponsored a few of their tea parties. So a number of our devotees and volunteers have gone, had a chat with these elderly people. I think the temple really recognises that. So we have a lot of elderly people in our congregation, and it's really important to understand that the elderly can be vulnerable, especially when they're alone as well. So the temple have really pushed forward with supporting Age Concern Epsom. So they've gone and they've given presentations, had a chat with the elderly, and that's really lovely. That's a really lovely way to spend your afternoon. But that we haven't all, like, we've also done a lot of charity work abroad as well, namely in Sri Lanka. A lot of our devotees are from Sri Lanka, and everyone is really passionate about helping those back home. Some who are less unfortunate, who are less fortunate than us, and particularly due to the civil war, many temples were destroyed and neglected. So that our temple has played a really big role in raising funds for the renovation of those temples. For example, 2 years ago, we devotees collected over £6,000, I think, to raise funds for a really important temple in northwestern Sri Lanka, so that it could be renovated. And there was like a worldwide appeal going on for that temple. And I think they've raised enough funds now, which is fantastic. But not only that, just last year, we also donated to a coronavirus relief fund, helping families and young children in Jaffna, which is in northern Sri Lanka. So that was an initiative organised by the Federation of Saiva Hindu Temples. So they're an organisation where I think there's about 40 temples which are like a member of. So we're also a member of the Federation. So that was a fantastic relief fund that they organised. So we're always thinking of ways of how we can give back to the people within our local community here, but also back home in Sri Lanka and anywhere else in the world as well.
That's fascinating how much charitable work you're actually doing for your temple here in Stoneleigh. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm absolutely fascinated with music from different cultures. And I find it interesting that you hold various cultural classes also at the temple. Can you tell me just a little bit more about these classes, please? I've got a lovely slide here to show you, which may just help everybody understand some of the work that is going on in the temple.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're fortunate enough to have a cultural centre next door to our temple, where we've got a couple of classrooms there, and we have a group of fantastic teachers who give lessons to students in Bharatanatyam, which is South Indian classical dance, which is that picture on the right, also in Carnatic music, so instruments such as veena, which is the instrument on the left, and also miridangam, which is what the boy is playing as well in the corner, also violin, and not just music classes that we offer. We also offer like maths classes for school students, so that they have a chance to have like tutoring for free if they're stuck with homework. And recently, about a year and a half ago, we started Tamil classes for young adults. And that's something I'm a part of, which is great. So there's like 7 of us. We're all young adults. We're all either working full time or studying full time. And we all kind of get together and we learn our mother tongue, which is amazing, because so we have to learn to read and write and speak, which is something that we didn't do when we were younger. So that's like an amazing thing that the temple has done. But also one of the really important classes that the temple hosts is our yoga classes. So the yoga team, they have classes every Sunday morning and every Wednesday to join. But they're an amazing asset to the temple. They always help us with when it comes to volunteering or stewarding for our chariot festival. And recently, during the coronavirus pandemic, a group of them have been going to London to work with the homeless, which is really, really lovely. But yeah, as I said before, if anyone is interested in taking on yoga when classes resume again, obviously, unfortunately, they're not happening at the moment, please feel free to get in touch, and I can put you in touch with the right people. They're really fantastic classes and with some great moves. So yeah.
Sounds brilliant. If you do yoga for the more slightly not flexible people, then I might just be there. Good. Look, Saidhanya, thank you for dropping into my virtual studio here at Channel KT4. It's been so interesting finding out all about your beautiful temple and the incredible work your devotees do in our community. I really hope you'll be able to host your festival this year. If you can, please let me know. I'd love to come along and cover it for Channel KT4.
Absolutely. I'm really hoping that it goes ahead this year. If not, hopefully we'll be back to normal next year. I just wanted to say thank you so much for inviting me to talk on the show. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I pray that Sri Rajeswary Amman blesses us with strength, health and resilience as we look forward to the rest of the year. So thank you very much, Graham.
It's been absolutely my pleasure. I've learned so much and it's been a delight talking with you. So I wish everybody well at the temple.
Thank you.
Temple. I wish everybody well there, and here's to everything opening up for a really good summer and autumn in 2021. Thank you very much indeed. This is Graham Jones. Join me next Tuesday at 12:30 when I'll be talking with another wonderful, exciting guest. Until then, stay safe and don't forget to social distance. Bye now.